Pasensya na kung may nakikinig kayo ha, kasi may seminar kasi. May mga seminar kami. Kaya, so, can you see the fourth unit sa ating class natin? Can you see it? The one that I'm presenting? The window?
Yes po.
Okay.
Ma'am.
Thank you very much. So, Unit 4, Language Acquisitions. There is actually a difference between a language acquisition and language learning. I know you're already familiar with that because of the PCM class. Or if ever na nakarating na kayo sa language acquisition from language learning. When we say language acquisition, it is your first language. It is what you've learned when you were little. It is what you acquired growing up. That's why your first language is your mother tongue. You're very lucky if your mother tongue is is Filipino or any other language, of course. Mas maganda na matutunan ninyo is yung ating sariling wika. Yesterday, I was asked we have a meeting with our chancellor, and he said that the Filipino language is the most, meron daw diyang, meron daw ang Filipino language na parang characteristic to become very perfect. Especially daw the Tagalog. Kasi, ang language daw dapat, kung ang dami daw loopholes ng English. Parang there's a study before. Ang daming loopholes ng English. And unlike sa Greek, di ba sa Latin, Greek, yung mga ganun. Kung paano mo siya sabihin, ganun, kung paano mo siya basahin, ganun mo siya sabihin. For example, sa Filipino, bata. No, ganon. So it's like that. But in English, there are silent words. Like, and also in French, there are silent letters na hindi binabasa na nandun lang. So for example, sa isang words, di ba yung Chevrolet. Pero pag tinignan mo yung spelling, Chevrolet, may T. May isa pa yung sa, di ba, sa Spanish, yung yes nila, yes. Kasi, J, di ba, may mga ganun. So, in Filipino, especially the Tagalog language, is like the Latin. It is how you say it, ganun siya i-pronounce. Yun yung how you say it, ganun siya baybayin. So, napakaganda ng ating language, mga Filipino. So, that is usually our first language. Especially if you grew up with a typical family, yung mga typical family natin. If you grew up there, it is what you've learned. Pero ngayon, kasi some of us, especially those people na they are in the corporate world, they are actually teaching their kids to speak in English as early as newborn. Why? Because they believe that it is what the students should know. It is what the students need in order to function in an environment. Pero, let us not forget our identity as well. So most of us, our first language is our mother. Of course, that's our mother tongue. First language is Filipino. Karamihan yan. Kasi kailangan nating makipaglaro, and most of our playmates in Philippines are speaking English. In Filipino. Language is fundamental among humans as it serves as a tool of interaction. So before, isn't it, we have discussed the different theories of language, and we have seen that there are lots of theories that says that language is very important because it helps students to, it helps a person to communicate. Kasi that's why language is very important. Kasi sabi doon, if ever we will not believe in the divine theory, language, of course, is created so that we could interact with people, so that it would be easier for us to function well. Taga, isipin nyo na lang, if the language is not invented, and you would like to say something to your friend, and you're just gesturing it in the gesture theory, di ba napakahirap nun? It's very hard for us to understand what sabog yung audio. How about now? Ngayon ko na nakita yung message ni Miss Derong. How about now? Sabog pa. Baka ako lang yung sabog. Ano ba? Nag-reply kayo agad. Okay na ba? Siguro ganito na lang. Bababaan ko na lang. Hindi na nagre-reply si Leron. So, I'll just wait for the message na lang ulit. So, napuputol ko medyo. Kasi pag tinry ko, I think I have a problem. Ang converge. Teka lang, papalit lang ako. I'll try. Wait lang. Try ko magpalit. How about now? I changed my Wi-Fi. Hindi pala Wi-Fi. I changed my internet. Nasa didinig niyo ba ako?
Opo, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so Converge saves the day. Okay, so let us go back to our presentation. Okay, so one important phenomenon that children exhibit is learning their mother tongue. So way too much without too much instruction from people around them. It is said that language acquisition, medyo ilalapit ko nga at may gumagawa sa bahay. Language acquisition is yun yung nadidinig natin. Yun yung nadidinig natin sa ating parents and or sa mga nag-aalaga sa atin. So, that is what we learn first. That is why some students, some children, kung paano magsalita yung parents nila, that is how they learn. Kaya mapapansin nyo, kung sino yung nag-aalaga, bukod sa nagiging kahawig na, ganun din magsalita, mag-isip yung bata. Kasi that is what they acquired as growing up. Many linguists argue that the language that children learn at an early age are brought about many factors. The first language, as they call it, plays a remarkable role in a person's life. It molds his perspective, point of view, of the world. The speed of language acquisition among predominantly shows that children learn their first language fast enough to outrun the rate of learning other macro skills as they develop. That is actually the reason why. Ito ko ba, pakisabi kapag nauulit ko yung mga sinasabi ko, no? Ano. This is one of the reason why. That, kasi nga, di ba, yung what the children acquire at the early age, yun yung nagagawa nila mas maganda na the things around them, for example, educational toys, the people around your children must also not swear. Yung mga ganun, mga swear words. Kasi that's what they will learn. They will speak about it without them knowing it. Okay, kung ngayon kasi alam ko some of you are saying, at least you know, and you are accountable of what you're saying. But as a kid, they are not. That is the reason why that is the best way to teach the students the different skills. Kasi maganda, sa totoo lang, I know some of you, lumaki kayo, kasi hindi naman lahat tayo, di ba? Different family tayo eh. Some of you, may mga lumaki sa inyo na ang nasa paligid ng kwarto ay puro laruan. Like for example, you have cars, you have Gundam, you have different toys, you have Barbie, you have Bratz, you have Ponytail, you have unicorns, etc. That is actually pretty good. You have a good childhood. But it would be better if, for example, the room that you have or the materials that you are using, the toys that you were having when you were younger, is educational toys. Kasi for example, when a kid is playing, for example, the blocks, colored blocks, you could just easily say, red. This is square. Red. Okay, let's play with the square, the red square. So now, little by little, the student will know, the child will know little by little, this is pala, ito pala yan, ito pala yan. So aside from that, you could also play a lot of educational, very informative song or you play, aside from doing the Cocomelon, if that's educational, hindi ko pa kasi napapanood yun. Instead of just playing cartoons, you try to start introducing your kids to numbers, yung mga ganong sounds. For example, one little, two little, three little finger, Indian voice pala. Okay, so you can see they will know little by little, just singing the song, they will learn how to count. So this is the best time to introduce the four macro skills with the child is by using this fresh knowledge, this source of knowledge to a children. Ito yung mga dapat mong gawin. Kasi actually, I have observed this one. Hindi ko, when I was, nagbabantay kasi ako nun for the nursery students, they would apply, so they will be assessed if what level will they be in. So, and I was asking, how will you know that this kid should be placed in grade 1 rather than nursery, kinder rather than nursery? So there's a set of checklists that they have. A grade 1 student must know how to count. He or she must know the different days, the different dates, like the different months, the different days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, like that, and know how to skip, know how to do this, you know how to do that. So if you will not introduce these different educational toys to the kids, what will happen is that they will start learning during the formal school. So imagine the hard time of the children, of the child to learn a lot of things in one sitting. Siyempre mahirap. That is why, while acquiring the knowledge, you must teach the students very early age, yung parang laro. Kasi kahit kayo din naman, di ba, you learn best when it's not purely discussion. You learn best when you enjoy, when you are having fun. So that is why, when you are starting, para yung school hindi nakakatakot sa bata. Bata pa lang sila, without them knowing it, acquiring pa lang tayo ng language, tinuturuan nyo na sila what the different things that they should learn. With the basic, the days of that. Also, aside from that, you could also, without them reading, kasi ang ano naman, reading is recognizing symbols. So you could read stories or you could put some charts. Kunwari dito sa kwarto niya, January. Makikita niya, magiging familiar siya na J-A-N. A apple. February. That's the words 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you could do that while they are acquiring knowledge. So in this part of module, you are expected to learn how language is developed through a flowchart. Okay, so tingnan natin. Okay. What are the essentials for language acquisition? In the early phase of a baby's life, it is said that he can learn his first tongue regardless if there is the intention of teaching from adults around him. According to an article written by Stan Borrow and Noam Chomsky, who is one of the pillars of language acquisition, stated that children across the globe, regardless of nationality and ability, learn a language. However, one critical condition is that the baby should have no language impairment. Babies will undoubtedly learn the language as the faculty in acquiring. So little by little, the kids will, they do not know the language specifically. It's just that you are acquiring the language without knowing it. Yun. Kaya nga very important na pag nagtuturo ka sa bata or may bata sa bahay niyo, that most of the things that the kid will acquire ay maayos. Kasi nga, hindi nila alam, basta pinapasok lang nila sa brains nila, pero hindi sila marunong pang mag-judge. Kasi tuturuan mo pa lang sila mag-judge as they grow up. How do children learn the language? Are there any circumstances that they need to have in order to acquire knowledge? So let us have some experiments. In 1970, a child who was named Jeannie was admitted in a hospital in Los Angeles, who was unable to speak since all her 13 years of life was spent in isolation. Jeannie was unable to speak even though she had contact with her mother, who was not allowed to stay with her for a long period of time. Jeannie's father demanded that she must be put to a room alone because he is unable to tolerate even the slightest sound of a child. When the 13-year-old child was admitted to the hospital, her response to a sound and speech increased. It started to show the imitation of syntax occurred. Grabe yung ano na to ah. Actually, it is good that Jeannie at least responded. Because, um, because the problem with that, sabi nila, 7 years old, kailangan yung bata matatas na magsalita. But this is a very abusive domestic life for Jeannie. I don't know if you're familiar with Mama. Mama is actually a horror movie. And dun sa part na ang nag-alaga sa kanila is an evil spirit. Kaya sila, di ba, if you're familiar with that, inalagaan sila, may evil spirit yung si Mama, parang nagpakamatay siya yata kasama yung baby. And nalaman nila, so they have, dahil namatay yung parents tapos napunta sila sa isang cabin, alagaan sila. Yung isa na medyo may idea siya on how to speak, on how to communicate, medyo madali siyang na ano ng meron siyang comprehensive thing. While yung isa naman yung bata na baby pa lang, nung napunta na dun sa evil spirit na si mama nga, ay wala siyang ka-idea sa mga nangyayari sa buhay. So makikita mo na if you will not learn the language, medyo I mean, sa part na yun medyo totoo yun. Sa part na yun, kagaya na sa story G, it will be very hard for you to interact and comprehend. Kaya nga, it's hard also na, it's hard to tell them ganito yun. So, it takes a process. Although she was trying her best to learn the language she heard around her, her language remained simple. Based on the diagnosis of the doctors, Jeannie had difficulty understanding the language. She was past the critical period. That is why, at the age of 7, the the child must already learn the language para mas maging fluent yung bata. Kaya dapat siya, kinakausap niya yung mga bata until 7 years old. We all have this kind of critical period hypothesis. It claims that the child learns a language in relation to age. The hypothesis poses that there is an ideal stage one can acquire language. When this critical period passes, a person may be able to still learn a language but with more effort and difficulty. So, this is actually the reason why sa atin, di ba, yung Mandarin, di ba kayo, you are studying Mandarin, it's very hard for you to understand Mandarin. Because, hindi nasanay yung dila natin and we are not familiar with how to speak Mandarin easily. So, it is very hard for us to do that. For example, some of you, namin ikaw, tsaka yung kapatid mong wala pang siguro 6 or 7 years old, nanonood kayo ng anime madalas. So ikaw, although you could understand some, pero pag natitignan mo yung sa bata, mas madami siyang na knowledge without the kid learning it. Pero ikaw, parang kailangan na pang intindihin. May mga parts ka lang yan pag-aaralin. So kasi, tagpas ka na sa critical period. So sabi sa again, as a review, critical period hypothesis claims that the children learn a language in relation to age. Okay, so ibig sabihin nun, kapag ang bata, if a kid is already past this critical age, still a language can be learned, however, it will take time. Saka hindi na siya language acquisition. Language learned na siya kasi pinilit mo mag-aral. Next, language acquisition device or LAD is known hypothesis that was conceptualized by Noam Chomsky. This idea about LAD claims that children undoubtedly acquire language since the brain is equipped with an innate capacity to learn speech. Children therefore inherit language structure, patterns, and vocabularies. Sabi dito, a normal children, kasi syempre there are children who has difficulties in learning. Siyempre may disabilities yun. So let us just learn that there are normal children have the capacity to learn language. So ibig sabihin, again, as children is normal, they have the ability to learn the language. Yun yung language acquisition device. Inom Chomsky. Okay? Again, the children will inherit the language kasi meron silang ability, meron silang device sa brain nila that could comprehend. Okay, so iiwanan ko kayo dun sa tatlong term. The first one is language acquisition, is what you've learned is the mother tongue. The second one is the critical period hypothesis. There is an age para it would be easier for the kids to learn. May certain age lang. And language acquisition device, it's the student, the learners who learn the language ay intindihan ng estudyante ay nung bata yung language kasi pwede na i-inherit niya ito. At meron device sa kanyang brain na nagagawa yun. So, as I have said, I will only need you for 20 to 30 minutes. Pasalanan ko yun. Next, do you have any questions? And napakaingay na sa bahay namin. Okay, so do you have any questions? Okay, so if wala, goodbye everyone. And